This tool helps companies hire based on skill, not resumes. But their homepage was telling a smaller story than the product deserved. In this Clarity Jam, we dug into how a fast-growing Australian-based recruiting SaaS tool can shift from point solution to full platform without losing clarity. We also uncovered why their best performing video is buried mid-page and how leaning into humor and their koala bear mascot could actually become their biggest differentiator. Let's get into it.
My name's Omer. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Vervo, a company whose mission is to make hiring about merit, not background, and we're a skills validation platform.
I love it. So what inspired you to start Vervo?
I started the company with David Weinberg, my friend and co-founder. We both were hiring managers. We're not recruitment practitioners, and we experienced the pain in hiring in a really simple way, that the people who often look good on paper oftentimes were not necessarily the ones who ended up being the best performers or could transfer their skills to a different setting. And conversely, people in our team who were stars were ones that you wouldn't necessarily pick out of a resume lineup. And it became clear that there's not a really strong connection between how people might apply or what they claim to do or how they sort of appear on paper and their actual job performance. And we were inspired by a number of things, one of which is the movie industry that does auditions, the sort of casting concept, like play the part, and a number of organizations that do this like job trial concept of, a day in the life, like come and do a shift in the kitchen of the restaurant kind of thing. And we thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could do that, a digital version of that for all jobs, or particularly for knowledge roles, and basically get people to show their skills and give companies a sense of, okay, this is what someone can actually do, not what they claim, not their background, not their gender, not their sort of grades from high school or from college, but actually, can they do the job? Can they write a great email? Can they negotiate? Can they do stuff in Excel? Can they weld metal, and so on?
It's kind of the whole classic adage of, I'm sure you've had experiences, and so have I, where it's someone has the Fortune 100 logo, but it turns out, their actual skill set is good, but maybe not the exact same thing that you need in your specific company. So walk me through a little bit about how Vervo in particular kind of takes that kind of audition sort of process and actually infuses it and helps many companies, including I know some very, very, very large ones that are your customers, be able to hire better.
In the most simplistic sense, we essentially, at the point of application, invite job candidates to do tasks. We call it a task-based assessment or a skills assessment. And it's essentially tasks that are relevant to the job. So if it's a customer service role, it might be resolving support tickets in an environment that looks like Zendesk, which is a common tool for customer support. In sales, it might be handling objections or prospecting, negotiating. And then in financial roles, it'll often be in an Excel environment. But really, it's about tasks that are relevant to the job and sometimes relevant to the job at that specific firm. So highly tailored. And then it gives a signal of the skills. So how has that candidate demonstrated the skills that you as the hiring manager have said are most important for performing in that role? And what we then do, the output that you get as a recruiter or hiring manager, is the candidates are ranked. They're ranked based on how well they performed. We also rank them based on skill group. And then we produce an AI output of kind of strengths and areas of opportunity. So you can go from to use a little bit of jargon, like sort of top of funnel, you can sort of rank people and get to a short list, but then you can also kind of really zoom in and dig deeper at the candidate by candidate level, compare them to each other at the skill level, and really read about each candidate. So when you're approaching the interview, okay, I'm about to meet Jennifer, and this is how Jennifer did in the assessment, and this is what I might want to talk to Jennifer about in the interview. And so really what we're doing is we're bypassing all the proxies. We don't really care. We're not telling you, you can use a resume, you can look at other things, but the signal we provide is how well did someone do tasks that are relevant to that role and just focus on that. And we're giving you a chance to bypass all the other kind of noisier signals that might be misleading.
Shifting gears a little bit, who is your kind of ICP? It sounds very much a top-down sales process. I know a lot of very large companies with lots of people who, are going to need to be evaluating a lot of different tasks within those applicants. Is it kind of, who is kind of the champion in the sales process? And or if there's a buying committee, who's kind of on it, what's kind of the core pain point, that sort of thing.
I'll cover two things, where we play and then the buyer. So where we play is, we call it at the intersection of skills and scale. So that means roles that have a good amount of skill, typically knowledge roles. Think sales, customer service, marketing, product, technology, but also healthcare, graduates, all those kind of roles. Why? Because for those roles, the cost of a bad hire, of getting it wrong, is high. And also the signal you get from like a chat or a resume is very weak. And so there is a good amount of skill. And then scale, because you need a lot of applicants to justify investing in a system. So if you only have one or two people who can do the job, you probably don't need to automate that process. You can maybe do a whiteboard exercise and bring them in. But if you have 50 or 100 or 2,000 people, then that's a heavy lift. So that intersection of skills and scale tends to appear in those sort of roles that I said: financial services, customer service, some field, we call them customer facing field roles like technicians and things like that. So that's the kind of where we play. We typically sell to a head of talent acquisition, chief people officer, sometimes CHRO, normally the talent or recruiting function. And then the layer after that is the business, the operations, the hiring manager. But often it's the TA function that's tasked with the tools and the tech stack. And then it can be some companies come to us for like an org-wide solution, and some have a specific problem in a business unit. For example, I have really high attrition in my call center, or I've got a huge grad program, and can you help me with that? And then it's a land and expand motion. So we do sometimes get like a VP of sales, but it is most commonly the talent acquisition function at large private organizations and government organizations or departments that we deal with at first instance.
Like when you have to hire thousands of call center reps or thousands of tech support people, that's a massive, obviously, recruiting pipeline. And also you need to make sure that they're not just, they actually have the skills to be able to solve problems fast with customers.
Exactly.
Awesome. With that in mind, I want to go ahead. I'm really excited to kind of dig into your homepage. So the immediate first thing I see is you have really strong branding, really strong social proof. Immediately, you've done a lot of things. You and your team have done a lot of things right. You have the social proof above the fold. You have some of the Capterra and G2 reviews, although I definitely noticed offline that a lot of those also happen to have kind of the ratings lower on the page. Might want to suggest adding in those ratings in the same place right here, because it just gives you even more social proof. And then I know we were also chatting offline a little bit about a really cool video that you have in the middle of this page. Do you want to kind of go walk down to that video? And just walk through a little bit, just in like 30 seconds, kind of tell people what that video actually is and why it performs so well.
Yeah, this video is our best performing asset, and we've made subsequent videos since. It's actually quite old, and none of them have been as successful. So we always come back to this. And I think the two things that stand out for me personally is mostly when you see these type of explainer videos, they spend maybe like 20% of the time on the problem and then 80% on like the solution or the product. This is inverted. So we really hit hard on the problem. And I think this really takes that, the balance is different. And so you really feel the pain of like, we hired Ben, the bad designer. Everyone can relate to that. Everyone's made a bad hire. Everyone feels that. The second thing about the video is that it's funny. It's humorous. It's funny. It's fun. I think there's not enough of that, right? So everyone's so serious, and this actually makes you laugh. And it's kind of like the goofy, the sort of the embarrassment of, we got it wrong and now we're feeling that pain, and what do we do with this awkward guy? And then, oh, the new world of getting it right and doing it differently, and that's kind of where we come in. But we also leave something for the imagination. We don't sort of ram it down your throat and say, oh, here's you have to do this, and here's what. It's just like you feel the pain, you get it, and it's obvious that we're doing something better than that. So I love that video. That's going to be that's something that every iteration of the homepage.
Mhm.
This is the one enduring asset.
Yeah. So my question to you is, this video performs really well. Everyone who sees it basically loves it and helps you convert. Why is it buried halfway down your homepage and not literally in the hero section where right now you have stock imagery and a really cool design? But I'm just wondering, you can still have that really awesome design and just put that video front and center.
Such a good question, and unfortunately, the answer is not a very satisfying answer because I think it's something to do with like SEO and page loading, and it's like a more technical answer. And we often have this like tension of between branding and ranking or performance, and there are things that to a human the instinct is exactly what you said, like this is great, why not put it, and we used to have it at the top, but there was some reason that I think we needed to have it further down, and it was to do with like clicking on stuff or ranking something that's not like my area of expertise. And that's unfortunately sometimes the sort of hard calls that we have to make. And it's to be honest with you, like it sucks.
If anything, you might want to look into that again because I've now seen this across dozens and dozens of these clarity jams. And then also I like write positioning and messaging for clients as well. And it's your homepage. So basically my own experience just in flat out is conversion copy kind of trumps SEO on the homepage, just in general, but too, like you can still do videos in your hero section. You might want to have to adjust the technical side of it to make sure it's good, but like I wouldn't let SEO hold you back from having your strongest converting video be buried in the middle of the page instead of right up at the top where it should be.
It's good feedback, and I think it's something we should look at. But it's something that I kind of leave to the marketing team, and I'm sure there are considerations in every direction. It's something that people are drawn to, but I think the question is like, is that the first thing we want people to see? It's a long-ish video, or is it something we want to sort of unfurl further down? But that's kind of the extent of my knowledge about that.
Like look at the numbers, but like from what you've said to me, seems like it converts really well. And it, at the very least, might be worth an A/B test to look at, ooh, this video could, is doing this, and oh, there's no SEO impacts at all here versus without it. And my hunch
Yeah,
is it's gonna you're gonna get a lot more demos signed up doing that than having what you have now, even though the design looks amazing. My other
sure.
question I have to you is I know that you're kind of more into moving more into a hiring platform, stickier customer base, higher retention. Love it. Wondering what is kind of right now your H1 says screen without CVs. What is the actual, what I would call a messaging wedge or that final thing someone is thinking before they sign up and become a customer of Verbo? Like, what is that final pain point? What is that final thing that they're thinking about?
One of the challenges we've had with positioning is that if you think of, if you're buying a surfboard,
Mhm.
okay, its value is instantly obvious. You want to surf, you need a surfboard, you love waves. If you're buying something like DocuSign, you want to automate signatures. With what we do, it's a deep solution. It's not always the same problem. We're solving a series of problems. Now, yes, they're broadly in the sort of skills validation, evaluation of candidates and or employees. But some people come to us for sort of speed or efficiency. Others are more focused on like quality and attrition. And then there's a bunch of stuff kind of in between. And so if we one of the challenges is like if we go like super narrow, super specific, that's great for like you sort of going to one audience and you're really clear, but then you're potentially not speaking to others. But if you go too broad, you're sort of nothing to nobody. And that's like part of the challenge. Now, we've done this homepage actually works well. So screen without CVs, I don't think it's so polarizing that, I think it's a bit of a metaphor, right? So it's not like, oh, if your problem's not CVs, then you're going to
Mhm.
leave. I think people get what it implies, which is the top of the funnel in hiring kind of sucks, and it's a heavy lift, and it's manual, and you can sort of do better. But it is pretty narrow. It's very focused on recruitment. It's very focused on the top of funnel screening, and we are broader than that. And we do see an opportunity, and that's why we're refreshing the homepage now to talk to a broader audience and sort of a broader set of problems that we solve. So it's more about skills, more about skills validation as a platform in other areas, but without sort of also losing the core DNA or the sort of main problem set that we're focused on.
That makes a ton of sense. My kind of follow-up question to that I'm just going to challenge very, very nicely is what is the general like emotion or that they're feeling right after they become a customer?
It's interesting that hiring managers care about ultimately who they're hiring, who ends
Mhm.
up in their team, and they care less about the effort that the recruitment team makes. And that's who we solve a problem for, but they're most commonly not the buyer. The buyer is the recruitment function on behalf of the hiring managers. The recruitment function does not own, they care about the hiring outcome, but they don't own the hiring outcome. They don't make the decision. So they care more about their pain. They care more about the sort of the efficiency, the sort of the system as a whole, that it brings efficiency gains to the company. And to that point, this is a relevant, this language is relevant because it does talk to that pain point.
Got it. So if you were to basically specify screening without CVs is accurate, but maybe it's a little bit more narrow where it is basically operational efficiency for skill-based assessments of hiring.
That's right. I think you nailed it. It's not, we don't want to change the nature of the problem or the solution. We probably want to broaden it a little bit. At the end of the day, we are making a clunky workflow a lot more efficient, but we're also improving the quality of that at the same time, and hence skills and scale. Where we play at the intersection of both. So it's if you have a high volume of applicants, but you just don't care, you want to put bums on seats, and you don't care who you're hiring, you probably don't need us. And equally, if you only have like one or two applicants, we're probably not the right fit for you either. You probably need both those things need to be true. You need to care about who you're hiring, and you need to have that kind of scale. And that's really where we're a unique solution.
Yeah. So what you just said there nailed it. That's what I would consider a messaging wedge. Or basically kind of that final thing where it's that like core value prop, that core pain point that is someone thinking like, right before they sign up and become a customer. And that's what I always like to include right within that H1, right within your here section. You kind of spell that out kind of through a mix of both messaging clarity and then also you can get creative, but never at the lens of being really, really specific. And then you can go down further down the page and you get into the stickiness or what I'd consider kind of your wedge, the wow moments, or those wow moments where it's like, ooh, we handle the one thing that we know that they care about, which is operational efficiency at scale and hiring the right people through skills assessments. But now you can also funnel in everything else when it comes to your hiring platform that, maybe they didn't realize it's the first thing, but this makes your platform that much more sticky.
I agree with all that. And the other point to make, and we've learned from experience, is there isn't a tendency to over-index on the
Mhm.
homepage. The homepage is one page. People come to the site through many paths, and also they come to us in many ways, not only through the website. And so, yes, one of the goals of the site and the homepage is conversion, but another goal is sometimes just
Mhm.
brand and, yeah, this is who we are, and you're in the right place. Often people hear about us and then they just check the website. Yep, this does what I think, and I can have a conversation. So we're also probably a little less, I'm not saying we don't want to get it right, but we're probably less anxious about, the homepage is not the only thing. It's just another important, but another page. And there are other, most commonly, I would say people come through many other pages or many other channels and end up speaking to us. That's not to downplay this, but it's one asset of many.
Totally. And that's even more to your point where it's like, okay, that's why having a wedge that is on your homepage, but then across every other page that someone's going to find, whether it's an ad landing page, a solutions page, a product page, customer pricing, kind of reinforcing that all at one creates less of the like analysis paralysis or friction that can happen when people are trying to figure out, do they go with you or do they go with another person, or more often than not, are they just going to the status quo because they're familiar with it, even though it's painful and they're, in 5 billion different Google spreadsheets or like spreadsheets that are shared with 500 people and it's all breaking. Like having that kind of wedge reinforced can do that not only on your homepage, but elsewhere.
From my personal experience, when I visit a lot of sites, I don't expect it to answer all my questions. I mostly want it to tell me that I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
And if I'm in the right place, I'll spend more time digging deeper, or I'll pick up the phone and sort of go to the next level. And I think more than anything, we want this to say, yep, you're in the right place. We solve your problem. Now go to the next level. And the next level could be more pages or scrolling down, or it could be click the button and talk to the sales team, or whatever it is that we want them to do.
That's what a really great messaging wedge does on your homepage and then elsewhere on every other landing page on your site, is it basically confirms, hey, we're in the right place. We get it. Like the main value prop that we have is the same exact thing that this customer has as well. And then just another really small thing before we kind of go into other sections of this homepage. I noticed you have 4 different CTA buttons. Start now, talk to
Don't get me
sales,
started. Okay,
try
so
it now, and request a demo. Why do you have 4 of them that all say the same thing instead of just one?
I was hoping you wouldn't rub it in. So you're right. That's something we need to address. So we most commonly, because we sell to the heads of TA, like those people want to talk. 95% of the sort of leads, it ends up being coming through the sales team and through a conversation. There is a cohort of buyers that are typically smaller, that want to do it themselves. And there's also, within the ideal customer profile in the enterprise cohort, some of the stakeholders do want to try the product on their own. Often it's like, it could be after a demo, there's a bunch of other people that just want to kind of play around. And our product is deep, and we do believe in the principle of show, don't tell. And sometimes it is good to see it. And so there is always this tension of like, do you want to block everyone and force them to come and talk to you, and maybe the leads are more qualified, but you miss out on part of the funnel? Or do you want to open it up to more people, but then maybe it's confusing? At the moment, the balance isn't right. It's going to be, when we refresh the page, it's going to be cleaner. There's also some technical stuff around like bounce, like if it's a hard CTA and people are not prepared to click, or are not ready. Not everyone coming here to sort of browse is ready to hit the talk to sales or request demo. So you want to keep them on the page. So there's a balance here of a number of things, but definitely at the moment, start now, talk to sales, request demo. There's a lot going on, and that's going to be cleaned up as we refresh the homepage. I was hoping you'd miss that, but that's absolutely something you've got to fix.
And the CTAs are going to be my first thing. And I actually don't have a problem. I do this all the time when I'm actually writing for clients, and then also on CTAs. I also on these clarity jams as well, where if you have 2 CTAs, that can work really well. If you already know that 95% of your basically customers are coming in through request a demo, make that be the blue CTA. Don't have talk to sales and request a demo. Use one language, one thing. Even if you have them on both places, having that same copy across both of those CTA buttons creates an actual measurable impact when it comes to conversions, and it just avoids some of the really tiny micro friction where people are looking at, okay, what is the difference between those things? Sounds silly, makes a big difference. Same thing goes with start now or try it now. Just stick to one, and maybe have that one be the one that does not have the blue background CTA button is just, text there so that they're still getting the bottom up people and the product approach, but it's not necessarily emphasized as much.
That's all good feedback, and that's going to be addressed.
Awesome. If you want to scroll down, so I see, I love the design. I know you're working on this again. I'm noticing kind of is it a bear or a polar bear?
It's a koala, actually.
Oh, koala. That would make even more sense given you're in Australia.
Now,
is that actually kind of leaning into that as a marketing sort of, I don't want to say gimmick because I actually think it's just really smart branding, but do you guys lean into that more?
So again, on that, I think that's a classic example. We've leaned into it maybe slightly too much. I think it's at conferences we hand out these Vervo. In fact, I might have one here. We've got these Vervo koalas, and people love them and they're cute, but probably there are too many koalas plastered all over the homepage. That's going to be dialed back a little bit. It's something that makes us. I don't think it matters specifically that it's a koala. It just happens to be that because we're an Australian company, but it humanizes a little bit. It softens a little bit, so we like that. Probably there's quite a lot of koalas, and we're going to dial that back and make the page feel a tiny bit more, polished. I don't want to say serious, but maybe elegant, professional. But we're not going to lose that sort of human touch. And we're an Australian company, and we're proud of it. And it is what it is.
Yeah. If anything, I actually would almost kind of push back in the opposite direction. Is that I think having a mascot in a B2B company like this, and it being koala and kind of being elsewhere, actually could work to your advantage. There's a lot of B2B companies and even more in the B2C space, especially go look at, if you want a very unhinged example, but extremely smart, even if it's unhinged, go look at what Brita is doing as the water filter company on social media and elsewhere, and how they're using their shark mascot to kind of sell more to Gen Z and millennials is super freaking smart. You can do something similar, maybe not unhinged, but just kind of either choose to lean all the way in to the koala branding or dial it back. But right now, it just almost feels like it's there, but it's not helping you as much as if you were to lean into a little bit more.
Interesting feedback. I'll pass that on. I mean, I think we sort of, to be honest, it kind of happened, and then it started appearing on all our swag, and people loved it. I think there's a question on the website, how strong does it need to be? But it's certainly, in terms of the identity overall, it's been a positive, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if it's already on your swag, you give it out at trade shows and conferences, lean into it. I mean, look at the example of what happened to Mailchimp. For all those years before they had a massive exit, the chimp hats, the chimp mascot, all of that, that was a huge part of their branding.
Yeah, it is.
Same thing goes of Hootsuite and the owl, and a few others I'm just blanking on the names of. There's a lot of examples of companies that lean all the way into it in ways that make it creative while still being clear.
I think the difference with the examples you gave, Hootsuite and Mailchimp, is they were selling, and I'm not a branding expert, but my observation will be they're selling to largely SMB, large amount of companies, smaller companies. So sort of the bottom end of B2B, almost consumerized B2B. We're selling to some very serious, very discerning, large corporations, but it's also a bit of a myth that you have to be too serious. At the end of the day, on the other side of the table are human beings in those companies and in government, and they love a bit of fun. And I'm kind of contradicting what I said earlier about the video, because the video is the craziest, they're swearing in there. It's a totally wacky kind of asset and people love it. So, maybe we should lean into a bit more fun, but it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, if anything, you kind of just answered your own question there. You have the DNA of the koala swag that everyone loves. You have the humorous video that everybody loves. You're in a space where everyone else is serious. You can still be just as serious, but leaning into the fact that you have that personality DNA that is a little bit more humorous and has that and also is leading more into the humanities of it is a strength, and probably your biggest differentiator. So why not lean all the way into that?
Yeah, could be. May well be true.
Yeah. And then scrolling down to the FAQ section before we wrap, a couple questions I have here. It looks to me like this is more for SEO than what I would consider, and something I've seen across every single query jam now that has one of these is the best FAQs for conversions are the ones that handle your biggest objections, not just what your company does and the SEO side of things.
Yeah, you're probably right. And this is a bit outdated, and we are refreshing some of that. Some of the objections today are a little different. There's more anxiety about AI and data and privacy. So we're dealing with that. We're dealing with like security. And so we've added that that'll be refreshed. This is probably a little dated. So can't argue with that.
Yeah, there we go. I would just definitely challenge you there where it's, yeah, you already kind of know all the things, and there's probably an entire podcast just about how you can reframe your FAQs to be the objection killers they are, as opposed to just kind of the space fillers.
Agree.
If you want to stop sharing your screen, anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered the most of the things. I mean the main point is that what we say today, I think we talked about earlier that the goal is to tell you you're in the right place.
Mhm.
I think the current homepage does that, but to probably too small a group. It doesn't, it's not the wrong message, it's just too narrow a message. And I think we want to say you're in the right place to maybe a larger group of customers, and even to the ones that we are currently addressing their problem, we're doing that in a narrow way. So maybe they think, oh, you can help me, but only for A and B, but then for C, D, and E, someone else needs to help me. Well, actually, we can do C and D and half of E, but you'd never know it. And so that's probably, so this isn't like some massive pivot. It's probably just a nuanced, um, adaptation or update. So that's just something that I want to say. And then I think beyond that, like this is not an easy. We're in an emerging category. We do something that's unique. So this isn't something that's, like I said before, we're not selling surfboards.
Mhm.
So it's something that it's probably an evolution, and it's probably a multi thronged approach. It's not like the homepage. It's how we talk. Often we update the homepage and we don't change how the sales team talks or we talk to customers. So how is our team speaking, or vice versa? The team's ahead of the market, and then the website looks dated. So it's getting all those assets right at the same time, how we speak, how we write, etc. And we've just learned that from experience. That's probably all I'd want to add.
I like it. And you're probably the first time I've ever had to say this, which is your wedge right now in the H1 is almost too narrow. So I'd actually tell you to actually expand that a little bit more and go a long way. And then also, like, you have all the personality elements with the koala mascot that resonates, the videos, the one video that resonates really well. Lean more into that personality, because in your space and an emerging categories, like, that's how you're going to stand out and really build a full-on marketing mode, because everybody else is just doing the same old corporate smart speak. And your DNA has kind of proven that that's not actually the case. And that's actually what's resonating with your ICP.
It's interesting. You've given me something to think about with the lean more into the personality. Are you saying that most commonly it's the opposite, that people's message, like other companies' messaging is like too broad and too bland and like not clear enough what
Yep,
they do?
absolutely. But across pretty much, man, like 80% of the query jams I've done, 80% of even just like the client work I do as well, it's literally the opposite, where it's like, we're the bold democratizing X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't tell you anything
Now, what
about
the
what
hell
the
is
product
that?
does.
Yeah.
You've done almost the exact opposite, where I'm almost like, you actually should actually broaden your wedge a little bit more to showcase just how encompassing your
Yeah.
hiring platform is and how different your approach is. And then also, like, you're hiding your best features, which are that video and the mascot.
Well, I think we've also, corrected or overcorrected depending on where you sit from like after kind of a bunch of time where we struggled to explain what we do. So then we went like super specific, and it worked, but now we're just like slightly dialing that to the
Yeah.
next level.
And I would
This
say
is
lean
what
more into
happens.
your personality. Anything else before we wrap?
No, that's good. I think we've had a good, this has been good, giving me a bunch of stuff to think about. And maybe final glimpse to the of the koala.
Thank you so much for coming on to Creator Jams.